We'll call our meeting to order. If you would all please stand, we'll pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We have a new face up here, but not a new face, but a familiar face, and Jeff Levin up here with replacing or temporarily replacing Joe Baum, maybe more than temporary, I don't know, but Jeff has joined us. Joe is out of town for the weekend for the rest of the week, so Jeff will be our counsel tonight.
Great to be here. Thank you, Dale.
Okay. Brian, if you would do roll call, please.
Kelly,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
Nancy,
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Mark.
I'm here.
So we will start with our public comment. I'll start over here. Susan Bean, do you wish to address council?
Yes, I do.
If you would, please come up to the lectern there.
Hello. Yeah. Well, I live on Main Street and diagonally across from Parker's Pizzeria. And I didn't notice this during summer weather, but in the winter, when someone leaves Parker Way going the wrong way, it is a one-way street, and they come out of there and turn right or left as they leave Parker's, the lights come right in my living room, right into my eyes, and I'm watching TV. I don't count, but there's a lot of them. Now, I don't know if we ever decided on punishment for violating that one-way ordinance that we passed, but I would suggest that if you put a $100 ticket on it, it would slow it down.
Chief, what is the fine for going the wrong way on a one-way street, do you know? $190.
Oh, boy.
So,
Well, I think that by applying this ordinance from time to time, even maybe intensely for a while, you could make a lot of money. And I did see one almost accident, somebody coming out and turning left, and there was another car screeching its brakes to avoid hitting it. And I know that this was discussed in council and decided by council, and I haven't seen any tickets being given over there.
is it mainly on weekends or is it just arbitrary?
It's all the time.
Okay,
Starts, well, of course, it gets, see, I never noticed it before because it was light.
okay.
But recently, when darkness was here at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and I do a lot of sitting in the living room, it's like flashing in my eyes, and I'm thinking, you know, somebody is going to have an accident out there, and we don't need it. And I'm going to also ask, I don't think this is a council issue, but I think there should be a crosswalk there with big signs that say you must stop for people crossing the streets, because there are so much business going on at Parker's now, which is wonderful. I think Wayne is a great businessman, and I don't fault him in any way, but people are stupid. And so we need some way to correct that. Now, another thing I would like to say is that I also know that there was an ordinance concerning noise in the village and what you can do here after 11 o'clock and whether you can play your music. And right now people are saying, no, there's no noise ordinance. So I would ask you to put your detectives on the trail of that ordinance. I know that at some time Natalie showed it to me a long time ago. I can't tell you exactly when that happened. And I would like add one more thing. I love this council meeting on YouTube. My computer screen is like this, and it's really hard to make out the little dots, who is who. But on YouTube, I can see everybody. I can hear clearly what they say. And I might add, I'm not disturbed by comments that say, I can't hear it, or I can't see it, you know, or I don't know what. It didn't ever seem that there were very important remarks on it. And there could be another place where comments could be made, say on the village council page or something like that, if they're important. But I want to hear any more about it. I can't hear it and can't see it.
Thank you,
And
Susan.
that's all.
Chief, could you make a note of the one-way issue up there? Okay, very good. Okay, sorry. All right.
The crosswalks, we're getting ready to have a water main project up through there. So when that's finished, it'll be repaved and there will be crosswalks at all the crosswalks. at
I
all the
am
intersections.
glad because that is such a busy part of that street and people are running across, to get their pizza and they don't look. It's a matter of public safety. Thank you very much, Art. Nice to see you back, by the way.
Thank you.
We have Administrator Wayne Gates from the Village of Ripley. Do you wish to address council?
I do. Thank you very much. I just wanted to come to the Georgetown Village Council meeting and express gratitude on behalf of myself and the Village of Ripley for the assistance rendered by Jerry Cooper and Matt Layford from the Electric Department when we had a tree break on the 10th of February. The tree was located on 2nd Street, which is US 52 through the village, and the tree broke in half toward the road and took a pole with it that included a transformer, and that shut electricity down for over half the village. And had Jerry and Matt not come down to help us, I asked my electric supervisor today. He said that their assistance made a difference of at least 8 to 12 hours in getting electricity restored to our village. And I just wanted to, they were there in less than an hour. They worked until midnight. And it's difficult to put into words how much we appreciate their help.
And yet you didn't bring snacks.
I did not.
I told him to bring snacks.
Okay. Well, Wayne, that's nice to hear that this mutual aid. I'm sure, as I said earlier, your group would have done the same thing had we requested it. So that's nice to know that things were taken care of and everyone benefited from it. So,
Call us if you need us.
all right.
Thank
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Delbert, do you wish to address council?
Delbert Eichholz. There's a couple issues or projects that were talked about. Eudora, which doesn't probably sound that bad on the surface, but one of the things that I thought about is, so once you get a cup, you can go out on the sidewalk and drink, right? What if you go to your car and just start getting a bottle out of your car? Next thing you know, you got somebody slobbering drunk causing trouble. I don't see any reason, any upside to having Eudora or whatever it is. We only got one bar. It's just not the right place for it. So anyway, that's one thing. I would think that needs to be killed. The other thing is this hasn't been talked about for a while, but the fiber optic, there's way more pressing issues than that we need done. We can't compete against Spectrum. The town ain't going to die if we don't do it. You can't compete with Spectrum. Spectrum has you can get up to 500 megabytes per second now for $100 or something. I mean, you can't compete with that. Nobody has, to this day, nobody has an idea what the costs are. And I've asked this question almost 2 years ago. What people don't understand is never started a business with their own money and ran it with their own money and suffered or succeeded. When you go to do a project like that, it usually costs about twice of what you're thinking. So therefore, we'd be in the hole right off the bat. Nobody knows what it would cost to put the internet on that line. The other thing is the internet world changes constantly. You might get the thing all the way done and find out that it's not even going to do anything because the internet world's changed. So nobody knows what the monthly costs are, like the maintenance for the fiber optic lines. I don't know if anybody even took this into consideration, but you have to have servers to manage all this. There's authentication servers and so on. Who's going to run it has to have software on it too. There has to be a billing software. Who's going to manage all that? Who's going to do the tech support? What's that going to cost? When you start adding all this stuff together, I come up with a couple thousand in the hole right off the bat and never get better. Because what if you run these lines? What if you do get somebody to take this? So you get them on there and something happens to the line that breaks. So they're out of business, right? Or Spectrum would get there pretty quick. What happens when they say, I can't stay on here because you're down a couple times? then you lose that customer and you'll never get them back. The other thing is that I learned when I did the internet, it's real hard to get somebody to switch. If this was the only game in town and this was the first time this business was going to get on it, it would be one thing. But when you start asking somebody to switch, if they got something that's working, you're not going to get them to switch very easy. So my thinking is that it needs to be killed. It's a bad business for them to start with. And
Mayor Cal, can I address that real quickly?
Sure.
Delbert, this is a good night for me because I'm gonna make you a happy man.
you don't vote against it.
There's nothing to vote on. It's been permanently shelved.
Yeah, we talked about that at another meeting.
Yeah. So. Now, if you want to talk more about it.
I get 45 minutes.
About it. No, you can. You absolutely can. I just thought I'd tell you.
I have, Delbert.
I get 45 minutes at, Liz Dunn got 45 minutes last week.
We got you on the clock.
You can talk more about it if you want to. I just
Well,
thought I'd tell you
okay.
the vote.
Let me make a quick minute and a half, minute and 20. Last week, somebody said something about they see people fighting on Facebook and that would stop businesses from coming into town. It wouldn't affect their mind one bit. These people are in business to make money. If the demographics are right, if the count on the road is right, if the average income is right, they're coming. If they can make a buck, they don't care if we squabble or put a lid on it.
You give that note to Nancy all the time. Now you get it back. Put a lid on it.
I think everybody, probably everybody but one or two people realize that that guy buying that old nursing home is a good idea or a good thing. That's going to add some, it's a building we're going downhill. I think the Port Authority's probably got some good merit. I'd like to hear more details and see what, but I think it's got merit. Now, that's a project we ought to be pushing, along with solar panels and stuff like that. All righty.
Thank you, Delbert. Okay, we'll move on to our general business. Is there anyone had any comments? Or, okay, never mind. Yeah, general business. On page 1 of your packet is the council meeting minutes from our February 9th meeting. Are there any corrections, deletions, additions to be made to those minutes?
Actually, there is one, or I would like to quickly discuss one. In Liz Dunn's comments, and I'm looking at Brian a little bit just because I don't know how to handle the situation. At one point, I had asked her a question, and she had responded saying she knew she had voted and it was over, but she made a recommendation. And that recommendation is that we keep an eye on the project and we question things as they were going through. And I don't know that the sense of that necessarily made it in here. And I don't think it needs to be word for word, but because she made a recommendation to council on how to proceed going forward, I'm wondering if that we shouldn't just somehow at least amend this to say that her recommendation was that council should keep a close eye on that situation moving forward.
She's just an individual.
Yeah, I was gonna
She's not-
say-
She's not speaking for the zoning board of appeals.
Oh, no, and I didn't mean that. I just meant her individual suggestion was that. And I don't know, do we want to, is that important enough to capture separately? Just throwing it out there. So,
Anyone feel that that's
Yeah.
warranted to be placed in there?
I think it, I mean, it is a part of what she said, and clearly she's a part of the audience.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would ask is that rather than us all try to recollect what she said and craft it together here, maybe we just ask Mr. Vaught to maybe revisit that little section of the tape and try to try to capture that and as an amendment for review next meeting.
and I'm not trying to be like super picky, Brian, but just because she made it seemed to be an important point to her. That's all. Thank you, Brian.
Anything else in the minutes? And if not, then we would entertain a motion to approve them as amended by Brian.
Make the motion.
By Nancy. Do we have a second? By Mike. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mark,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
On page 6 of your packet is the review of the Community Development Committee meetings. It's there for your review. If there are questions about it, you can bring them up now, or if the committee has anything they wish to say about the meeting, they can do so.
For correction, Ryan, down under basketball court, it says that I will apply for a grant. I said I would be willing to, and I'll talk to the full council. I can do that now, or I can do it in the round table.
So you're
Instead
willing
of
to.
will apply,
instead of-
I would be willing
willing.
to, or offered to apply.
May I ask, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Mark.
need to be recognized. May I, ask a question? The Dave Gunther, grant, what was that used for?
What are we on here?
The first page, August 23rd.
Oh, you're on the
Oh,
CIC.
that's the
Mike.
CIC meeting.
Oh, I'm
We're in the
sorry.
Community Development
Oh, I'm
Committee.
sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We'll get back to that.
I'm sorry.
Everybody confused with the CDC and the
I'm sorry.
CIC.
You're fine. Anything else in regards to the Community Development Committee meeting? If there is not, we will move on. On page 7 is the review of the Budget Committee meeting. It was held on February 9th. And once again, if there are some questions you want to have answered from that committee, they can do so. Or if they wish to have any announcements, they certainly can. I think these were all recommendations that were discussed in detail at our last council meeting. If there is none, we will move on. On page 8 is an ordinance. It's a second reading for the establishment of a port authority for the village of Georgetown. And Kelly, if you could read this by title only, please.
An ordinance authorizing the creation of a port authority within the village of Georgetown, Brown County, Ohio pursuant to section 4582.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Any comments? If there are none, then we would need a motion to adopt this ordinance. We
Can I
need-
just ask for a brief
Yes.
pause to
Yes, please.
review this just a second? Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
We would need a motion to adopt. Nancy, did you make that motion or was it?
No, but I'll be glad to.
Okay, Nancy, you did. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. If you would do a roll call vote, please, Brian?
Mark,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
It's 1331.
1331. Do we want to have Jason come on board at this point in time?
Jason, I think you're muted right now, but can you hear us? We're going to have the same issue we had the last time. I'm going to do something with this microphone system.
That's what I was scrambling for.
Yeah, Art, I can hear you loud and
Oh,
clear.
wait
I
a
can
minute.
hear
Hold on a second. Let me turn the volume on my computer down because you are now coming over the projector the way it's supposed to work. Okay, give it a shot.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear the other people in the background. It's just a little bit muffled. I can make out most of what they're saying, but sometimes it's just very faint.
Jason, do you have some thoughts with now that we've passed this ordinance to establish a port authority? You know that a couple of weeks ago you were with us and you were talking about the virtues of the port authority. And if you want to expound upon them just a little bit more, just to refresh our memories, that would be grateful.
Did you hear that, Jason?
I cannot make out all of it.
Okay.
Okay, the mayor asked that, you talked with us a couple meetings ago, and if you wanted to just kind of elaborate and make any more points about the Port Authority, basically that's what you're asking, right?
Yes.
Just a little bit, was there anything you want to explain that you felt wanted to explain, the last time?
Yeah, I think it's important just to reiterate to everyone on the council that don't look at the Port Authority as creating an organization necessarily. It's essentially a tool for economic development. And I think that's the best way to view it. Port authorities provide municipalities or counties with, some broad real estate finance and development capabilities that, municipalities and counties don't have on their own. It is a unit of local government that varies from a CIC, which is a not-for-profit organization. And I believe Joe sent around, a good fact sheet. I think that was put out by Ohio State, just sort of clarifying, comparing and contrasting some of the different powers and abilities that each of those entities have. But, from the economic developer's perspective, there's not really a distinction in my mind between the port and economic development, because the port, again, is just a tool to help accomplish economic development. And I think that's the best way to view it.
Okay, very good. On this Port Authority, we should probably have 5 to 7 members. I've been kicking around names. I don't want to bring them out at this point in time, but I want you still, as I asked over the past few weeks, that if you have names of people that you feel would be qualified to be on here, share them with me, and then I will narrow them down, bring them back to you for any suggestions about them too. Any questions at this point in time? Now, we would certainly need to have someone to lead this Port Authority from the get-go. Right now, we have someone that is capable of doing that in Jason Hammond. He is quite intimate with what we are doing here in the village of Georgetown. And I think he would be the appropriate person at this point in time to undertake this process. Like he said, this is actually a tool of whatever else he's doing for the village of Georgetown. It just makes his job have more capabilities of bringing exposure to our village, getting more funding available for certain entities that wish to come here. And that's what he does for a living. So, Jason, do you have any comments about that? Can you hear me at all or not? Probably not.
Jason, do you have any comments? The mayor just explained that he thinks you're the right person to lead this effort. And he wanted to know if you had any more input on that as far as being the leader of the Port Authority.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll start off just by saying that in other municipalities or counties across the state, I'm not aware of any situation where the city or county economic development director isn't just by default the director of the Port Authority as well. Because again, they're not forming distinct or separate functions, because the Port Authority is a tool to accomplish economic development. So I guess just by default, that's sort of what I think virtually every city or county that has a Port Authority, there's not a separate Port Authority director from the economic development director. So I think just by that on its own, but I've been in site selection and economic development consulting for about 17 years. I have a very strong track record of standing up a Port Authority from scratch for another county in Ohio. So I think for those reasons, it's a reasonable decision.
Comments?
Yeah, I kind of think I know where this is going, but I may be in the minority. I tend to agree with if it's going to come from you that there's some urgency to make this decision tonight, I would disagree with that. Respectfully. I have no reason to not believe him. I just haven't had a chance to research this a whole lot. I can definitely see the benefits of having the person who's already been doing economic development here, giving him another tool in his toolbox by being the leader of the CIC. That all makes sense. There's just another part of me that's like, if you're going to build a building, you a lot of times do a request for qualifications for dozens of architects and sift through them and look for the best. I don't know if we want to engage in that. I think that I will probably, if we were to pause, I would probably come to that way of thinking that he just expressed. But I would like to be given that few weeks to actually look at what, if he says that every other city, I want to see if every other city just by default does it that way. That's all I would request is to, I haven't heard anything that makes me think that this is a decision. We just established a Port Authority 30 seconds ago, and that 2 minutes
Right.
later, we need to plug in the leader of
I
it.
won't disagree. I won't disagree.
Okay.
Jeremy.
Just super quickly, I would agree with Steve on the time. I know we want to get moving on things, stuff like that, but I think a week or two to digest is not a terrible thing. I would also say real quickly that because that's the way it's always been done is not always a solid reason to continue doing something. But I would also like to say that in all of my interactions with Jason, and he's been very patient explaining things to me, working through things, blah, blah, blah. Watching Jason work and how Jason helps me has sold his credentials to me on encouraging him to be a part of the Port Authority. So
If
I'm just
for
saying,
no other reason, just as elected officials and due diligence.
sure.
It's like, hey, you guys just kind of shoot, you pass this and 2 minutes later you picked your economic development. It probably just proper to,
Yeah.
and we'll probably come to the same conclusion at the end of, and it's 2 more weeks, like you said, if we do this next meeting.
Don't have any objections to that. Anyone else at that juncture?
I was just saying that Jason's impressed me up to this point in time. So, I mean, it's something to consider. So
Jason, what they're talking about right now, I know you can't hear them, but they've decided to just put like a 2-week pause on this so they can research some things, and they believe that they're going to come to the conclusion that you just spoke of, but they want to do a little bit more research and not jump into it. And I think we all agree that that's fine, but I want to add something because I know in the last conversation we had about this, there was a issue that came up about your pay, but this is really not going to cost us anymore because if you're filling both seats, but if I call Jason because General Motors calls and tells me they want to put a plant here, you're the first person I'm calling, whether you're acting in our behalf as a economic development director or if you're acting as the Port Authority. So am I wrong in saying that this is just really an extension of your contract and you're not going to be billing us twice as the economic development and the Port Authority, correct?
That's exactly right. So that's what I'm saying. The Port Authority, don't view it as an organization separate from what the village is trying to accomplish for economic development. If you want to pay more money, then you hire a separate person for the port and then figure out how to pay them and then have an economic development director. They're going to be working on the same exact thing, like Art just explained. So again, the Port Authority is a tool to accomplish economic development. So it's not, not trying to double dip or power grab or anything like that. It's just, when you think about it logically like that, it wouldn't make sense to have a separate person because they're going to be doing the same thing.
All right, I just wanted to make that clear because I think we were all a little confused on that last time. so.
I was confused on it.
Mark first. Mark, you have a comment?
Hey, I think if we don't put Jason Hammonds in charge of that, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Because he's the economic development person, and the Port Authority is for economic development. That's a bingo. There is no second thought about that. Let's just do it.
Comment over here.
I think that the way it was understood at the last meeting, it wasn't really clear whether he was getting paid for both positions. And I think you'll find that, even when he was questioned about what it cost, he didn't allude to what he just spoke right out and said. He said that, well, it's hard to tell what the cost would be because there was 1,300 people that lived in that area to where we only have 4,000. So it was not very clear at all in the last meeting. I think with that clarification that he just stated, I don't have a
That's
problem
why I
with
asked the
that.
question, because I wasn't
'Cause-
clear either. I
Right.
just wanted to make. 'cause I
And
know
we
we
spoke
all-
about this, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, so that is his answer.
And that gives a lot of clarity to where it wasn't like that the last time we spoke with him. So.
Are we
great.
still,
That sounds-
do we still wish to have that 2-week break?
I still think that's.
I still wish to have the 2-week
Okay.
break, but.
But we can do that, so
Yeah.
that's fine, so.
Okay, that was good clarification. We're going to take the 2-week break on it and then make a decision the next meeting. So thank you for coming in. You have anything else you wanted to say to council? Or-
I don't think so at this time. I mean, I just appreciate the consideration and, if anybody has any questions, I think everybody has my contact information. Feel free to call or email me directly. Happy to talk to anybody one-on-one, answer any questions you might have about economic development, port authorities, what my vision is for it, any of that thing.
All right, well, I'll call you next week and we'll still keep working on the skeletal frame of this thing. And then once it's all finished, then we can start putting it together. So thank you.
Hey, Art,
Yeah,
I think
hold on.
that you also, if you don't care, I think that you would find that after that being stated, there would be a lot of people that would be a lot more comfortable with him holding that position than us paying two different wages for the same.
Oh, yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's going to be
I
a
just want
problem.
him to
keeping it
realize,
what we're
right,
saying.
I just
Yeah.
want him to know,
Yeah.
we're not dragging him around. I think he
Yeah.
does a good job as that.
Yeah, that explanation was perfect. I think everybody's on board with you doing it. I believe you may even get some more questions from council through email or whatever, but I think right now they just want to look at it a little bit more and study it. So I think we're good.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I mean, yeah, by all means, that's what I'm here for, is a resource to answer questions for, council and the administration. So, yeah, please feel free to reach out.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Okay. In your packet on page 10 is a supplemental appropriation. And Art, you may want to give some conversation about this because this is right up your particular alley.
Which one is
The
it?
one
there?
about the Humane Society.
Oh, yes.
Page 10.
That's the 10,000 that you gave to the Humane Society last week. That wasn't in the actual original budget, so we had to do another appropriation, bring it back to you for approval. And once that is done, I will deliver their check and she'll start giving us the reports like she did last year, so you can keep up with the progress of the program.
And then there's also another piece to that about the fireworks.
And the fireworks, that's the 5,000 that you've agreed to give to the Grant Homestead Association. And they are raising the money for another 5,000. So we're looking at a fantastic show, a $10,000 show with that level of fireworks. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a great show. And that advertisement will go on our website tomorrow and on our Facebook page.
I guess I did this wrong. I guess, Kelly, I should have had you read this
Oh,
by
yeah.
title first, and then Art could have explained that, but if you would, please.
An ordinance making a supplemental appropriation for the village of Georgetown, Brown County, Ohio.
And again, it's exactly what Art said. Any questions about the appropriation? If not, then we'd need a motion to adopt.
Yes, so moved.
By Mark, do we have a second? By Nancy? If you do a roll call vote, Brian?
Mark,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy. Yes. Steve.
Yes.
It's 1332.
1332. Okay, on page 11 is our payment listings, and I'm sure there may be some questions there. We may or may not be able to answer them without Natalie, but Art may know what these are. But if you have questions, now would be the time.
I don't have a question so much, but I think I have a compliment. I see the name of somebody on there that is an appraiser, a commercial appraiser. Is that the person that did the building in here? Just kudos to you for, first off, finding one, which is about impossible in today's world, and for negotiating a great price. That's you. Either he's a very generous person or you got him beat down a little bit. So thank you on that.
Any other questions? There are none. Of course, all these questions can be answered by our fiscal officer. If you have, you can call her at your leisure. But also on page 13 is the payment register detail. This would be the credit card usage.
What's all the SWAT gear we bought?
Rob? No, you can answer that. SWAT gear.
I think this is the credit card, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that we used drug fund money for that, so it was all reimbursed.
Oh, okay.
Reimbursed.
I see.
Okay.
You don't want to share what it was? I'm just curious what it was, but
Well, that's what it is. Yeah, she has to, I mean, she's little, so like the stuff we had from when the mail office.
what includes SWAT gear?
Oh, Lord.
I'm sure bulletproof vest, but
You've
what
got-
else?
I mean, you've got
Helmet?
a very rugged vest that covers
Yeah.
everything, and then you've got special holsters, you've got a helmet, you've got special space for your radio. I mean, there's more stuff than I can even tell you.
Okay, I was just nosy. I wasn't questioning it. I was just nosy.
Okay, if there's no other questions about the payment register, we can go on. I think Chief Rocky wishes.
I have
to-
one more
Oh,
question.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just saw it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a fee in there for for putting up a homeless person for the night. Did that come out of that fund that we talk about sometimes?
Yes.
I'm just curious.
The Wolf Fund, the
I wonder
Wolf
how
Fund.
often- Yeah, I just wonder how often that got used. So that's an example of that right there. Okay, awesome, thank you.
That has nothing to do with Steve Wolf.
Not even spelled the same.
He'd like to take credit for it. Okay, I have Chief Joey Rocky. He wished to address council tonight.
I know nobody asked, but no one's worried about it.
Mic on, Joey. Put the red, hit the red one, or,
How about that? Is that better?
You're on.
Okay. Couple things, speaking of Boundtree, every year we, they're probably our most utilized vendor. We buy most of our medical supplies through them, simply because we found that they're usually the most competitively priced and they deliver products on time and what have you. But to keep them fair, every year we do a business review with them and it's actually pretty nice. And I printed it off for everybody to read, but they go through there and list like our top items that we use the most, we spend the most money on, and then they try to compare other brands that we can utilize through them that might be a little cheaper to where we could save money. And just ironically enough, the 20 gauge catheters was our most utilized piece of equipment. So they gave us sent us some samples. I requested some samples from them. They sent us some other vendors and they were okay, but the catheters we have are have like a backflow preventer on them. So when you retract it off of the catheter, it stays in the arm or neck or wherever you're starting IV, blood cannot come out. And I'm a big advocate of guys not, interacting with blood. So I didn't really like the ones they offered. So there's like 8 cents difference. But in peace of mind with me that guys aren't coming in contact with blood. But it is a review, and if you're bored or can't sleep tonight, you might just want to finger through it. And it is pretty needy. He listed all the items and that, but I was pretty happy with it, and it seems like we're doing okay on expenditures and what have you. So I'll just take one. All the township contracts are secured. We finally got all those done. So I know we're 2 months into the year, but we finally got all those done. The last thing I wanted to talk about was in the fire world, your insurance rates are set through a company called ISO. Okay, it's insurance services. Basically, they come in and they every 5 years and they rank your department. They go through all your training files, through all your equipment. They have this whole list of equipment that you have to have, and they basically rate your department. Part of that is out of our control because the communication center is part of it, a big part of it, as is the availability of water. Okay, and some areas in town we lack the water we need, but nonetheless, there's a lot of it that we can control. And I was really excited to get this mitigation done because I was hoping that it would move in the positive direction, and I got it back. I've actually had it for a month, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I wanted to be here in person. But we got it back, and we actually moved from a 5 to a 4.
Okay. The best you can be is one. There's less than a dozen in the country. Okay. That's a one. A 3, or I'm sorry, a 4 is a really good rating for us. The staffing was a very big part of that, but training's a part of it. A lot of the equipment upgrades we did was a big part of it. But for in town for a rating of 4, I was very, very happy. So, you know, that's.
Can you relate as to how that applies towards people's homeowners insurance?
Yeah. So basically, when you buy a home, and you call your insurance company up and say, hey, I want to get insurance. I live at 118 Blair Avenue. Well, that company will do research, and it's your ISO score is what dictates, you know, if you have a 9, your insurance rate's going to be through the roof. The lower the number, the better the rates, because basically, essentially, in theory, it's a better department. The lower the number, the better you are at doing your job. So does that mean, I'm not 100% sure on this, but does that mean that everybody's insurance is going to go down? Probably not, because they're not going to just randomly pull your, you know, but if you put a call into them, or if it's a new resident or whatever, or you go to another insurance agency, it very well could. So I've got that report, and it's crazy in detail. I didn't want to kill too many trees tonight. So if anybody would like it, I could email it to them, a copy of it. I have it right here, but I was really, really happy with that. And I guess I'm a little more excited than everybody else, but it kind of says the guys are doing a good job at what they do. So I was real happy with that. So that's all I have.
May I ask a question?
Sure can.
From this time this year, or through December 21st of last year to like the same period this year, is meth death up or down?
Is meth?
Meth death.
Oh, meth death. Ironically enough, I mean,
or do you have those numbers?
I don't have those numbers, but the health department does a good job of getting word out there and getting Narcan out on the street, as does all the other, you know, police and all that. So, I mean, a lot of the overdose runs we go on, a lot of times the police will beat us there, but the police will Narcan or the people have Narcan. So, but meth specifically, I don't know. Do we see a lot of that, Rob? It's normally heroin. Yeah. So, but I mean, there's the community, or I'm sorry, the health department has it's called a Project Dawn kit, and it's basically a little kit you can get, and they'll give it to you free. They got a huge grant, so they got tons and tons of Narcan over there. And I encourage people to go get it. You know, I was cruising down 52 one day, seen a lady on the other side of her car trying to get a guy out of the car. And I was like, yeah, this can't be good. So I peeled it around in the road and went over there. It was an overdose. Give him, 2 milligrams of Narcan. And
So you don't have to have a prescription for that?
No, you can go right to the health department and get it.
Okay,
It's
I'm not
free.
on meth. I don't
Yeah.
need Narcan. I want to get the information out. So
I would encourage the
people
public to
don't
get them.
die.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it could be your grandma overdose on her pain
We've
medication.
had people fall at the counter and
Yeah.
come in as fun, and the next thing you know, they're down.
So, but
Well, and they have that new vending machine thing too, right?
Yes.
At the is it the Brown County? No, it's not the health department. Where
No,
is
it's
it?
out, what's the place?
Albert House,
Albert House.
Brown
There's
County
a-
Counseling.
a machine out there you can call or go out there. They'll issue you a scan code,
Yeah.
and you scan it, and that machine, and it's free. That machine has Narcan in it. It has condoms in it. It has some other medication. There's just a multitude of things in it right now that's being supplied through a grant, and that's free to anybody in Brown County, or anybody anywhere, I guess. But you have to call and actually set the app up on your phone, and you can just go up and do whatever to the machine and get what you need. Needle exchange, that's in there, yeah.
And also, I know this building has a drug drop off if you have old prescriptions. Does your place up there where the fire department have that, or just this building?
does not have it. It's just this building.
Just this building?
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to get that
So
out.
we
to
get
the
people
public.
drop stuff off, and I just bring it up here and put it
Okay.
in that one. So.
Any other questions for the chief?
Congratulations
Yeah,
on
good
the
job on-
insurance.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comments. Chief Freeland, do you have anything for council tonight? Okay. All right, very good. Well, you have something? Yeah, Art has something for council.
I want to run through a couple things real quick. First of all, I want to give a thank you to Kroger. That Kroger hometown pickup, they've stopped doing that here because people stopped using it and more people are using the home delivery service. But they wanted me to pass on thanks to the community, thanks to council. They donated us $1,000 and that's going to go toward the basketball court at the park. So I think we're up to like $3,000 or $4,000 in donations toward that basketball.
And one thing again about that, Art, I got called from that same one. It wasn't just Georgetown, it was the whole area. In this area, they did away with the hometown.
The if you go into Kroger to shop, you can see the uptick of people, the personal shoppers in there. It's full, and they're killing it with that home delivery service. Absolutely killing it. The next thing, I've kind of alluded to this a few times. We had that traffic signal study done, and we found out there's several traffic signals that aren't warranted here. But after talking to some council members, they feel that the couple I wanted to take down, the one they want to leave up. But the other one that I think everybody agrees should come down, and I'm asking for permission to do so, is the traffic signal there by IGA.
Yes.
That traffic signal does nothing but cause congestion. Sit there and watch the traffic signal. Traffic will move faster without that there. And it's not working, so it's going to require like $55,000 in repairs to upgrade it modern, and there's no need for it right now. My thing is there, if we start working this economic development thing, that whole plaza is going to end up changing eventually. So it's going to require an engineer's traffic pattern study there, and then that's when a new intersection should be arranged. So
Yeah, and leaving that one there could potentially, depending on what that study concluded, you could have two of them. They're, one block apart, which would be
Right.
silly. So, yeah. And then there's the cost to bring that one up to code, you said, or to keep it maintained or whatever. Is it one of the ones that puts us at liability if
Yes.
there's an accident there?
especially there, I mean, that's a state highway.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's no justification for putting that kind of money into it. And I have gone out there, and you can do the same. I've gone out there and actually parked in the daytime and on the weekend and watched the traffic. And I never paid attention to it before, but that traffic causes a backup there.
I'm of the mindset that one needs to go. I'm just one of 6 people. But you just said there was another one that I want to make sure I'm clear on this, that our engineering study that we did said needed to go.
That was North Street and
And our village administrator said it needed to go. And then you talked to a couple of council people who are making you do a 180 on it.
I'm not doing a 180. I'm asking what council wants me to do. I want to take.
Oh, I thought you were saying that one was off the table because a couple council people told you they didn't want that one
And
to
a
be
couple
considered.
people in town have said something about it. And here's their concern about it is that without that light there, people will speed from the Ohio Street light and be able to gain more speed. Now, my view is different on that. I see people speed trying to get through that light before it turns red. So I think it's just.
We
you know,
probably asked this already, but did you have any opinion on it?
My only concern at that intersection is just one of the entrances or where you're coming out Main is when you're coming off North Street or on that little bit of a hill, if you're heading west. And there's a lot of vision obstruction if you're trying to make a left turn. I feel that you could possibly get T-boned there by somebody going north.
Do you like the idea of the light remaining? Is that what you're saying?
Unless there's some restricted parking in front of some of those residents that are south of that intersection.
Scott hit twice at that light because I was coming from the other direction, but making a left. You can't see because all those cars. You can't even see ambulances and the cruisers.
You almost got hit with the light there, but you're saying you fear that it would be, you could almost get hit if the light wasn't there?
I'm afraid you will get
Okay. Is it one of the ones that puts us at liability unless we sink some
It
money?
is, but police chief, that's a village street, and if he feels that there's a safety, I'm okay with it staying there.
Yeah, okay.
I tell you why I want it gone, because it needs upgraded and it's gonna cost us money.
Okay.
But I understand the safety aspect of it, and that's, if council wants to stick with it, that's fine.
If I may comment, there's been, for people who are out watching, there's been some discussion on what's going on. And out of the Utilities Committee, we flagged that one as we weren't sure and we wanted to talk more about it. I don't think there was any definitive recommendation made at all. Am I
That's
right?
what was freaking me out about. I
didn't-
misheard it that like, we're not even going to talk about that one no more. It's definitely staying. I'm thinking we just sort of just jumped clear past it. But that's not, I heard it wrong. That's not what
Yeah.
we're saying. So,
So I think
okay.
the thought was in the next Utilities Committee meeting to have some time to talk about that and the options there. And I don't think there's an official recommendation from anybody
that's
if you're looking for.
and
it.
let's take the chief's consideration into that utilities
Yeah.
meeting because that's kind of some.
Oh, yeah,
first time I heard that.
absolutely. Yeah.
But the reason I'm asking you about the light, I don't care if we wait on that one, but I am asking you to allow us to take the light down in IGA now because it's starting to have some other issues and it could potentially cause a wreck being there. So if you're okay with that, we'll take that one down and you guys talk about that.
I have bolt cutters.
Any objections to our taking that one down? Okay, well
thank
then, we will consider that an affirmative to do it.
Now, my next thing is just odd that this just came up a couple nights. I'm just gonna flat out ask.
Is there like, I know it sounds silly, but is there like what do you do with the old one? Do you put it on Gov Deals or is there a refurb?
They're laying out at we end up usually scrapping them.
Okay.
But, you know, we could put them on gut deals and sell them.
I think you want one for your basement, don't you?
There you go. I'm just gonna flat out ask you if council will tonight consider taking a vote to put this fiber project to bed. Let's just get rid of it. We're running out of time anyway. We're not gonna reach our goal. And I'll tell you, and I think some of you already know this, I'm so freaking excited about this Appalachian grant and this potential that we have coming up that I don't want to spend another year talking about this and then starting right over at the beginning and begging for help. If we kill this now, we can write a really nice letter to the state and explain to them, we've had a change of council, we've had some other things come up, we don't think this fits us, this won't punish us for not taking the grant money if we decide tonight not to do this.
So in order to do that, we would need a motion to disengage from the fiber project.
I make a motion to disengage from the fiber project.
Okay, from Steve, and we have a second by Michael. Any discussion?
Honestly, I thought we had done this already.
Yeah, I know, we were. But we just didn't make a motion.
This is
I'm
the
the one-
formal.
This is the
vote.
formal, okay, fine.
So Brian, if you would, please.
Mark, yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Mike,
So we're voting to.
yes, disengage.
Yes.
Just wanna be clear.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
and Steve.
Yes.
So Art, can you get that letter written to ARC? Okay, very good.
Two other things here. Donahue Pharmacy called. They are getting ready to paint their building on the square. So there will be another one of those lifts sitting there for a few days and some cones to block a couple parking spots off. We have discussed in the past about redoing this room and make this more friendly to our audience and the council as a whole. Well, first I'll show you the idea here. This is that door. We can add 30 more chairs in here. There is a countertop on the circular table. The wires for these microphones will be completely hidden in tracks here. Every seat will have a grommet here. The microphones do not have to be disconnected or moved. The only exposed wire will be from that center table to the countertop. These are all I don't remember the term, but they're sanitary chairs. They're easy to clean. Ours are around this circular thing will be web. Now, the good thing is, well, not the good thing. This is probably with getting this floor redone. We're having this closet redone.
This wall goes away.
No, it's everything's contained in this room.
That's the door open. Okay.
That's the door open.
Okay.
Yes.
Just do a 90-degree spin of
I
where
got
we
you.
are.
I got you. I got you. Okay.
The cost of just this is right at 15,000. But listen to what we got going on here. We've got the state budget grant that I've got like 35,000 left over and able to do everything upstairs. I called her and she's 99.9% that I can use that grant to pay for all this. So we're going to have this room painted.
These are going away. I mean, I know that if.
Get all that built and the chairs and everything for.
Yeah, this,
for
we can put
15
this on the
grand.
grant, and if there's enough left, we're going to add a large TV here so that get a new camera that kind of faces here, so when we're showing something, you can't see this at home. And obviously, we keep having trouble trying to connect sound. If we get a nice smart TV over here, that camera will face down at council. People at home will be able to see that TV. We can still use this for us to see, but they'll be able to see the TV at home. The sound will be better. The floor will be completely redone. All these wooden chairs will be gone. We're adding like 39 chairs to this room and make this actually a professional room. This podium thing we're sitting on, this thing will go. It belongs to the Donahues, but the floor underneath us has to go, obviously, because it's just hollow. But that's to get the floor redone too and to paint this room.
Any questions?
I love it. Why'd you wait till the end of my term to do all this?
Makes you want to re-up
I was trying to find money.
So, do you remember when they tore down the Red Stadium and they auctioned off the outfield seats? Can we get a couple of these for $1 or $2?
We can
That'd be
auction them.
Great, yeah, that'd be great. In my surround sound theater in my basement.
Huh? Yeah, we have to auction them, yeah.
Were these from upstairs originally, do you think, or, yeah?
Yeah, because the ones upstairs, I think they got in Cincinnati from a theater or something, didn't they?
Music Hall, wasn't it?
Yeah, it might have been.
I have a question about that. You're talking about the gaslight grant, right?
Yeah.
Was there ever any kind of guard or anything put on those windows up in the balcony?
It's on this one. It's on this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a real hazard. The other thing is, this is on loan. What are you going to do with that?
We called them today and the Donahues are gonna come and look at it and see if they can use it at home, or they'll come and look at it and determine who they want to donate it to. Yeah, that's the same with, I think, that table too, but these are and that's the other thing. We're moving these around constantly. This room does not have to be moved for court now, other than that podium, but nothing has to move. These wires don't have to be disconnected, so we're not ruining these microphones anymore.
You know, I get my feet tangled up in these wires, which
No,
I
you
do
won't. You won't
every
see them
time.
anymore.
Need a motion on that, or is that just something that's gonna happen?
No, I think just if everybody's in agreement with it, I just.
Is there a
move ahead with it.
consensus? Okay.
And I should have gone back to committee maybe, but I talked about the Lexipol for the rest of the village. I love it. I didn't think it would have any real value to us until I started researching it. You know, that list I gave you a few weeks ago about wanting to get our handbooks completed and redo that. And then I said something about getting some inventory software. Well, guess what? That inventory software comes with Lexipol. And we can integrate the little handheld scanners. We don't do inventory here. I mean, it's very rudimentary. They might take a napkin and write down that they got 5 meters or something, you know. There's nothing official, but there's a couple reasons I want to do this. First of all, they really keep up on the handbook for you, and they're always matching that to federal and state law. Everything in the handbook will say that it comes from state, local, or federal law. We don't have to pay Joe's firm to keep going over that thing. It's constantly done. And just like the police and the fire, they send out tests to employees to make sure that they've acknowledged certain policies. On top of that, there's a training module in there. Let's just say that Joe's firm came out here and did a sexual harassment training and we videoed it. We can upload that from now on. Our employees can use that and they have to take a test on it. This company generates the test, blah, blah, blah. We can put all the videos on it we want. There's no limit to the amount of inventory we can do. So the goal is to have every department head have a scanner. We'll get the printer that creates the barcodes. We can barcode when we buy something. We can also, they'll be required to scan it out and take it out of inventory. So we can clean these shelves out. We probably got meters that we don't use anymore that we could sell to some other local government that could actually use them, and we could recoup some of the funds back. And it gives all of our supervisors, it gives them a better tool, I think, to tie down on how much money they need to spend or put in their budget. Because right now, a lot of stuff we guess at, and I think this is going to help us a lot. I assume too that, because we had this conversation, sounds like just like Public School Works. I assume it probably, reduces the village's liability a little. Well, I guess I'll look to this gentleman a little bit. It just hypothetically down the road, if you had somebody who was said, I was bullied as an employee, you guys don't have any right now, they might say you don't have any formal training on that. If we can go back and say, no, they were trained, and show the module that they took and they electronically signed off and, things like that too. So I would assume that it kind of lowers our liability, I would think. Yeah.
It's Public School Works and Ninneola rolled into one, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I was a little skeptical of it, and I'm sold on it. I've talked to her like 6 times and asked questions, and I'm just, especially because all the inventory programs I've been looking at alone are $8,000 to $10,000
Yeah.
a year subscription. This thing, the one-time fee to start it up, $17,000. That's for the yearly subscription and the one-time setup fee. From that point on, it's $6,200 or $6,300 a year, and that's split between all the departments. But I think we can make our money back or save some money. And I'm also going to work, and she said I could do this. I'm going to work on this. This puts it into a spreadsheet. So I'm also going to try to manipulate a spreadsheet myself and make our own vehicle maintenance reporting software as part of this.
That number you gave, I know you sent this out. I didn't have time to look at it real well before the meeting. So that would be everything besides the police and fire, and then the numbers that Chief Freeland had presented would be for those 2 entities.
Yes.
Okay. So it's
For his, but Joey's will be separate. He just talked to her today
okay.
to get his to see if he wants to do it or not.
Okay.
Regardless of whether they do it or not, I can assign as many users as I want. So even if Joey doesn't get it, he can still take part in this inventory system and will take part in the inventory system.
Are they giving us any, and I just complimented you earlier on your negotiating skills, but are they giving us any break on that implementation?
Yeah, there's some.
Is it in
Okay. On the quote there.
Due to the fact that they're already doing implementation for other stuff out here? Okay.
They gave us a break on the training software.
Yes.
Because they're only charging us for 7 officers, but I'm allowed to add as many as I want now. In the future, they'll charge us for them, but it's still only $88 an officer. You could spend, $500 to $1,000 just for one officer to go to one training. So.
But I tell you what, I've already planned to do tomorrow. I'm gonna call her back tomorrow and say, they really like this, but can we shave another 1,000 or 2 off of this somewhere?
Are they listening on YouTube tonight? I hope not.
Well, here, we'll just make that official. I really like this, but if you could get them to shave about 1,000 or 2 off of that, I would.
Now that'll have to come back to council because we'll have to do another appropriation and everything to pay for that. But I talked to Natalie today, splitting it over the funds and what it's going to do for us. It's well worth it, and it's not something that's going to hurt our budget because I think it's going to help our budget.
Art, in talking with them, did you or they ever mention a product called Cortico? Did you ever trip across that?
No.
Okay, all right. The conversation for another time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, man.
That the water main project I've been telling you about on North Main, it looks like it's going to be like around the middle of March when it starts. That's what I was just talking to you about. So there's going to be some traffic interruptions there, obviously, but they're going to do their best to keep at least one lane of traffic going all the time. So be looking for that. And I had a good meeting with Structure Point yesterday. That full report should be here in April or May. They completed it other than some of the electric portion of it, but they're putting it together now in one big report. And when I send it to you, it's going to be huge. So you're going to have plenty to read for a while. But it will be finished. And I haven't wrote anything about it, but I just, again, want to talk about this Appalachian grant a little bit because I am going to ask a few of you to come and give me some of your ideas. And we may even have a public hearing up here to get some ideas from the public. There's some really good stuff going on, man. And I think we've got a chance here to bring a couple $1 million into this village right now because we have some really good ideas that are just being weighed by other state agencies and stuff right now. And I think we've got some good chances here. So I'll keep you up to date on that and very excited about it.
The one good thing too is Art's a member of the Ohio Municipal League, and he's formed partnerships with other communities that are fully aware of the Appalachian grants out there. And so they can package things together to get more clout there. So that's something, kind of that collaborative sense that, you may want to touch upon at some point in time, Art.
Oh yeah, there will be a whole group. I mean, I can tell you now, ODOT's going to be part of our team. Ohio History Connection is going to be part of our team. Whoever we can lean on. Yeah, because they'll give us some money, and that money helps our score for the Appalachian grant. This is going to be big for this whole community, and I'm excited about it.
I know that's big, but I can't believe you kind of left out the biggest thing going on in town.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Yes.
Taco Bell started back there today. And I believe it's going to get finished this time. It wasn't abducted by spaceships or anything. They're actually building. So I'm glad. I've seen some Facebook comments about we want others, but I'm going to put a little thing on Facebook about kind of how economic development works and how our role in that, and that we don't actually call up Kentucky Fried Chicken and tell them we want them here, and it happens. A lot of people, and I'm not bad mouthing, people don't know that. I would like to explain it to them. And, anybody's welcome to invest in our community. But what I would say here, and I was going to say this anyway, and then I'll be finished. Investing in your community is more than just a financial investment. An emotional investment is just as important as a financial investment. If you really care about the community, find the good parts of it and be a cheerleader for it. Things will come. With positivity, good things come. So things are being worked on. I'm happy about our town. We'll get it done.
Mark, will you have an annex at the Taco Bell for your office?
I'm not moving from Burger King.
Okay, all right, very good. Is there anything else, Art?
No, that's all.
Okay, thanks. We'll do our roundtable discussion now, and Kelly, would you like to start, please?
Yes, I think we had planned to go into executive session tonight to discuss contractual employees. So I don't have, okay.
So what were the codes for personnel? Is there a higher revised code, 122, something like that?
I probably could find one.
Well, Kelly, were you suggesting you want to do it now or after?
I thought we do it after the roundtable.
Okay.
Let's do
You
that.
look that up.
And he'll, yeah.
Okay, let's do roundtable. Kelly, if you'd like to start, please.
Okay, I have two quick items. Budget committee meeting, the next meeting for that we set this evening, that's gonna be March 9th at 3 p.m. So again, that's budget committee. And then just a quick reminder to all committees, we talked about this a little bit at the work session. And we did it today in the budget committee, but make sure that you're working on your priorities for your budget for 2023 so that we can really kind of cross-share the ideas and make sure we know what each committee is working on to kind of stay on top of things. So bring that to the work session if you haven't finished.
The work session date?
Is next Thursday, I believe, the 2nd.
Next Thursday.
So it's next Thursday.
7 o'clock, I
7
thought.
o'clock. The 2nd, okay.
I thought it was 7 o'clock because Mike's.
Yes,
work
it's
schedule.
definitely 7 o'clock and it's next Thursday. And those are only 1 hour.
Is that it, Kelly?
That's it.
Steve?
Do you mind going to Mr. Mays
Yeah.
and coming back to me?
Mike, do you have anything for council?
Yeah, only thing I'd like to do is, I don't know if I need to make a motion to do this or what, but sometimes it seems like these meetings do drag on extreme amount of time. And I don't know if we can move to where maybe we limit them to 2 hours or less. I feel like we should be able to get done what we need to get done in 2 hours. And when you get in here after a whole day of working at 7 and it's 10:30 when you get out of here, I think it's just a lot of things get stretched out. So
I think that's a nice gesture. I don't know whether we can hold ourselves to that or not because, we can't necessarily limit that, but I would suggest that we all try to limit our amount of time in this room if we can.
I think it's kind of difficult too, because if you recall the last meeting, 90 minutes of the last meeting was public comment. So we can't cut off the public either. So it's kind of, we're a little bit catch-22 on that one, unfortunately.
I think that there could be a limit, even if we have to do a continuation to the next meeting. I just think 10:30 at night is a little bit long to be. in a
Well, maybe
meeting.
some of our roundtable discussion items, we prioritize them in your own mind as to which ones you want to really talk about and nail down and some
Well,
of it.
that's exactly why last time I had no comment.
Yeah, okay.
And-
If you look in the minutes.
Right.
you'll see
Also,
that.
Mike, the work sessions should hopefully be, once we get going, should be a viable option to really vet out some of the stronger topics and maybe have them more vetted out when we come to full council meetings. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Well, let's play this by ear and see how it goes as we progress with these work sessions. And then, I don't know that there's really a time limit we can actually say, but, just be conscious of your own time. So anything else, Mike? Steve, are you ready?
Yeah, I just wanted to draw awareness to a couple community events that are coming up in the near future. One is this Saturday, the Georgetown High School Band Boosters up at the Big Eagles Hall. The band is going on a trip to Washington, D.C. They will perform. They'll perform in Washington, D.C. But you can go up there, $15 per person in advance or $18 per person at the door, and smoke pork chop or chicken breast prepared by Estel, I assume, right? Yeah. And all the sides and everything like that. So that's this weekend. If you want to get a good dinner, go up there, help the band out. And then you'll be treated to a performance by the band after your dinner. And they also will have silent auction items up there and things like that. If you want to get tickets in advance, I'll put this, I think I have his contact information. You could probably contact Art and you could get them in touch with Estel.
I'll share the flyer again on Facebook.
It's on, yeah, that's right. It's on the village page. Yeah, go to the village page there too. You can see some of what I'm saying here. And then one that's just way out ahead, just to get it in people's mind. They do it annually and they do a great job with it. Same location at the Eagles, April 1st. The Brown County Humane Society will be having their fundraiser. You can go on their website and get to the details of that. I don't have all those right in front of me, but it's a same kind of thing going on there. You get a meal and there's a ton of giveaways and auctions and raffles and things like that. And that one is April 1st. So that's this Saturday, 5 to 7:30 for the GHS Band Boosters up the Eagles, and then the Brown County Humane Society at the same place, April 1st for their fundraiser. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mark.
When I came here, I had nothing I was going to talk about, and then Wayne Gates gave me something to talk about. I really appreciate Jerry Cooper, and I forgot the other person's name who went to Ripley. Matt Layford for going to Ripley and helping them out. I used to live in Ripley. I worked for the Village of Georgetown residents, but it's really good that we help each other out because we all have to live together. I yield back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Jeremy, please.
Yeah, I have two items super quick. One is that whether we could sign off on it or not, Mike, I'm going to commit to being as quick as I can. That's the look I was hoping for. Okay. And then number two is a DORA update. I'm going to keep this as quick as I possibly can. The two things I want to do is update on what has happened since the last time we had a meeting, and also take the pulse of the room, either formally or informally. Is not are we going to have a DORA, but is this something worth continuing exploring? Because I'm super happy to do the legwork on this, but if people are convinced one way or the other, you could also save me some time too. I'm convinced one way, but I mean, we'll see. I'm interested in what the people in this room think.
You have a real weird point of view on that. I have been kind of steadfastly against it. Well, that's not true. Once upon a time, I was kind of for it. And then I've been completely against it really for the last few months. But I think I like a lot of people, I think in spite of you trying to tell, I'm slow to hear sometimes, have recently gone back and reconsidered some things you thought. That I think one thing that I keep forgetting is that the door could be turned on and off like a light switch. So, and no fault of yours, you said that a million times, but ask my wife, you have to tell me a lot sometimes. And so like the 300th time you said it, it's starting to sink in. And I'm asking here, I guess, as much as I'm telling, if we were to plan a few events around the square, for instance, and we do some right now that are clearly, I wouldn't think we would ever want alcohol out. We try to do a skating party every year. We've done that the last couple of years. That's a family thing, a kids thing. I don't want a door there that weekend, so we turn the light switch off. But if we were to do, I just fished it out there recently and there seemed to be a little buzz and interest about it, doing like some kind of adult, maybe decade by decade, a 50 sock hop thing on the square one weekend, or maybe a disco thing another weekend for your era, Mr. Mayor. And then maybe an 80s, an 80s dance another weekend or something, not back to back to back weekends, but at different times of the year. I'm asking if we had a Dora, that light switch, that door switch could stay off maybe 47 weeks of the year and just get turned on those 3 weeks? I'm asking.
You
And not have to go and apply for an alcohol permit every single time and things like that.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
The slightly longer answer is you have to write it carefully and make sure that the stuff we're writing is.
Those kind of things would have to be defined on the front end when you applied for your door, your intended use.
So I'll just go ahead and answer this question. The answer is that if you would write it in such a way that says, and other times that the village administrator would approve, then it would be off until we came and got approval and then back on again, if you see what I'm saying. So in other words, the default could be off,
Yeah.
but we could set it so we could flick it on again because the village approved it.
Okay. Well, then in answer to your original question, the village isn't spending any money right now to have conversations about it from time to time.
Correct.
And we're going out on our own time and polling our constituents. I saw you doing that one Saturday. We're not being paid to do that or anything like that. So it's not, the village isn't being harmed by nobody, even if you're opposed to it, nobody's being harmed by continuing the conversation a little bit. I've gone from maybe 100% no to maybe 70% no or something like that. And I think other people might do the same thing with repeated information given to them. I don't know how some people who are completely dead set against it, if we're opposed to them again in that way, if maybe they would think differently or whatever. So as far as just sticking a fork in it so it doesn't clog up any of our time, I don't think that we necessarily need to do that myself, but
I did.
It needs to be,
What's that?
I think we need to talk about some options in that too.
Yeah.
I think we need to continue it.
Very quickly.
it's not an endorsement from me
No.
for it. it doesn't hurt to.
I'm not looking
So,
for endorsement. I'm just
yeah.
looking at, am I using my time wisely? That's, yeah.
I mean, it took 5 minutes of our time tonight to talk about it, so.
So just some quick updates because some things have happened in the past week. This is very quick. I've been continuing to ask people their feedback. People have been super nice, super open about things. I'm still getting more positive than negative, but the negative is a really important. I mean, you can't just say because it's like 51-49 or whatever, you can't ignore people. So the one thing I would like to address, the number one comment I get that's against it is why? There's not enough traffic uptown to warrant this, which that's the whole reason. I say, yes, you're exactly right. That's why we need it. If you're a business uptown, you can take a risk and stay open later, try to get more customers. But if they're not there, you're paying electric, you're paying employees, you lose money. If we flip the script and get people uptown before people have to risk opening their businesses later, now they see there's people on the street, they might choose to say, there's more people, I might stay open later. So considering there's almost zero financial risk like this, like I did quick back of the napkin math, we have in the past 2 weeks appropriated 7 times more money than it would cost to do this for fireworks. And I'm a huge proponent of the fireworks. I love fireworks. But my point is the financial risk on this is almost non-existent. My question would be, why not try it? But there are some folks that aren't into it. So one of the things this is totally separate. I would like people to know that I've not been talking to Steve about this. I came up with something very similar. The concept of when our committee met, we had talked about very limited dates and times. Consistency is good so people can know when they are, but limited dates and times. And I had floated the idea of a 1-year trial period, as opposed to saying we're going to have a DORA. But we could say, well, we'll have it for a year and then we'll re-meet it the next year. Do you want to keep doing it? And I think if we add ideas like you've suggested about default on off or whatever we're going to call it, it's not the right words, but you know what I'm saying. just putting out there that if we take all of this feedback and mash it into something that most people could get behind because it's not too far one way and it's not too far the other way, that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping to have these conversations
What would,
about.
again, I don't understand, I'm not on the committee. If, let's say that the decision was made at some point to do it with some limited number of dates.
Mhm.
And you did it the very first date, because this is the concern I hear, is that we're going to turn into like, that's going to turn into like Skid Row out there, and there's going to be people staggering around and, urinating in people's yards and whatnot. But let's say some of that kind of happened or whatever, and Chief Freeland comes to us and says, you guys just had your first door night, and, that was kind of a train wreck or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we out if we just say, yeah, okay, bad idea, and just shut it off forever and didn't do it anymore? We're out to cost us some cups and some signs?
Yep.
Okay.
By my estimation, because I was talked to Jeremiah about the cost of street signs, so I've done real research on this and the cost of the cups. I can't imagine why this would cost $500 even. Like,
Where everybody's gonna go for this door on the square, where there's one bar here and another bar.
Well,
going away.
and I used to say the same thing, but like I said, I just had people, I proposed to throw a party in a bar, and a lot of people said, I don't want to go in a bar. I'd like to go to your part. I'd like to have an 80s night or whatever. Why don't you do that on, I wouldn't mind having a beer. I wouldn't mind going in the bar, getting a beer and coming back out or whatever. I got a lot more of that than what I would have thought.
and the crazy thing for me is what you had said earlier. Like, I'm not trying to come up with ideas on what should happen, but it's already happening naturally. Steve's standing there going, we're gonna have an 80s night, we're gonna have an 70s night. Like, that never occurred to me, but it just doesn't have to. It's the people who are smarter than me who run the businesses. They're gonna come up with stuff. I've heard ideas for a Cinco de Mayo thing on the square. I've heard like all kinds of ideas coming out of the woodwork, which is exactly the point. That's what I'm not trying to sell anything but the possibility. So that's exactly, that's what I'm tying into, Steve.
To me, that's a key point. If we were all wrong and we started doing it, am I annoying you? Well, okay. If we started to do, well, I mean, we want to talk about it or not?
I didn't even do anything, Steve. Calm down.
Just slam down your
Calm
pen
down.
and sigh, and if we started doing it and it wasn't as good as, it wasn't what we thought it would be, then we don't do it anymore. We're not out a $10,000 license. or-
Not even $500. And if it's going to reflect bad on the town, I don't want it either.
Right.
And
Okay.
I'm committed, and I'm going to be very careful about this right here. I cannot put words in Chief Freeland's mouth, nor am I going to ask him to speak. But I can say that Chief Freeland was the number one person I came to talk to before any of this went down. And if the chief came to me and said, I got a problem with this, I'm going to be a proponent of shutting it down, because the point here is economic development, not put more work on these guys' plates.
Have you took the time to ask the chief of police in Ripley, say how that's went for them?
So what I have done, because it's so new, it's fresh, we got no numbers, no statistics from Ripley.
A year, right?
Not quite. No, it's, well,
After July
July
4th. It was
8th or something like that.
yes.
They
And
would have some insight on how that's went.
I talked to one of the officers and he said they really hadn't had much problem with it.
And statistically, Nancy had done some looking, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, in Southwest Ohio. I've been doing a lot of research in the northern half of the state, Toledo area. I cannot find a single municipality that had an increase in their stats of drunken, disorderly, all the things you might worry about.
Something else to consider, if we do it for some targeted number of dates.
Yep.
Like, I would propose if we were going to do, and I'll just keep using that example, an 80s dance party, I would, probably get in my own pocket and get a few businesses, John Wood, and people to pitch in, because I would want, alcohol or not, I think I would want to go to the police and hire an extra help. I mean, we did that with the skating party, and obviously there wasn't alcohol there. So I think, one of the doors that I go to a lot, there's a police station in the door, and that might alleviate, I'm not saying we'd have to do that every time that the door was open, but that might alleviate some of those concerns too about people walking around and,
Mark, you had a question, didn't you?
You were asking for our opinions, correct? I'm totally against Dora for 1 second. I mentioned from here to infinity, I'm still at infinity.
Okay.
Never. It just, it's bad for kids to see adults drinking outside when on a normal day, it's not legal to do that, period.
Whole game. I mean, if it's a Reds game, people sitting there with their kids drinking a beer outside.
They're not on the street or a sidewalk in Georgetown, Ohio.
And to be fair, when I said that I had been talking to people who were against it, I didn't want to but Mark is absolutely one. I've spoken to Mark, has spoken to me repeatedly. So I want Mark and everyone to know that his opinion is being represented as proportionately, as fairly as I possibly can. And I don't want you to feel I'm not representing you, Mark.
You say you've talked to every business owner in the
No,
town?
I have not said that.
Have you talked to every business owner in the area that you intend to put this store at?
Every business owner. I have not been able to get a hold of, because our schedules are identical. If you're a lawyer on the square, I have not been able to get a hold of you because I can't get to their door when they're open. I have, the answer is no, Mike. I'm trying to go down and figure out which one. I really tried to focus this past week on private residences, because before I was going for businesses and I was going for private residences. And I had, well, I'll be honest with you, I was a little concerned about what feedback I was going to get. I had families that live on the square with children living there who are completely endorsing it. I mean, in a low-key kind of way. They're not like going out, but they're saying, yes, this is something we would want. And I'll be honest with you, I thought maybe private residences would be maybe a little less interested in it. And so far, I'm finding the opposite. But no, I don't want anybody to think I've spoken to everyone. I've spent time. I've done my best. I cannot claim to have spoken to everyone, nor can I claim to be done if we want to continue this conversation.
Now, Jeremy wants some sort of clarification from council, whether to continue pursuing it, to come back with either better numbers or worse numbers, or whether you just say no. Because he, like he says, he doesn't want to waste a lot of time and effort on something that may be dead in its tracks, but he doesn't want to discount it to that effect either.
I say we continue looking at it.
Do we have anyone
Obviously,
else?
I do, but I miss.
For the events, like you and I have had a lot of discussion around
Yeah.
it, back and forth, and there are some things I can get comfortable with and some things I can't.
Mhm.
But I do like it for the events.
Don't we do that anyways at the events generally?
No,
I mean, like,
you have to write a full liquor license, like the
We do
beer,
it for one event.
Yeah.
And it's a pain in the rear because, I mean, you have to apply for a license.
which we still would because we are selling the beer, so that would not change. But that,
I'm asking if we had an event and somebody could walk out of either of those two bars and come to the square, we want to.
yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
Let
You
them have
wouldn't
the
have
liquor
to
license.
sell
But this
that.
doesn't apply to kegs because
Yeah,
we
it
have to
does
get our own
That's
liquor
right.
license.
Yeah, there is no liquor license for Adora, is there?
That is
No,
correct.
it's-
We use the liquor licenses
Yeah.
of the establishments.
They use them. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean like that, yeah.
Any more thoughts?
And I'm just going to say, no, and maybe Mike, I didn't know if you wanted me to say that. So that's the only reason.
I don't see the point in it.
Right. So, okay, I would have called you by name, but I didn't know if you wanted me to do that. But
I mean, if we have special activities on the square, I think we could always apply for a license just the same.
Well, you have to apply so far ahead of time for the liquor license. The application involves maps and everything else.
Most parties or events I know of, there's quite a bit of time between the planning of the start of it to the point of where you have it actually. So I don't see, normally most of the things that are activities around here on the square, there's ample time to plan.
Okay, I'm just the one that has always done a lot of that.
Well, I'm
so-
sure there's plenty of time you offer to plan, Nancy. I'm sure.
I'm gonna say thank you for all this information. This is ridiculously useful. I will be happy to continue bringing you stuff, and if you like it, great, and if not, not.
You want Delbert to make any comments?
Well, I have some comments from Delbert here before, but sure, Delbert, what you got, man? I thought I was throwing you a bone with the fiber thing. I thought.
Hours.
If somebody can go, once they get the cup, if they can go to their car and get beer or booze, then the establishment isn't making.
They can do that now.
They can do it now.
I can take this out to my car and
Yeah.
fill it up with whatever I want to. What's the difference?
And the law on this doesn't change. So
Right.
what one of the
It's
chief
not
finance
open
officers would
container.
do then or now, it's the exact same. There's nothing.
It makes sense that if they can go get their booze out of the car and the establishment don't make money, that's not helping the establishment.
But it's also as illegal as if they did it right now.
Right.
So there'd be no net change there and,
Actually helping them.
okay, I got you.
I don't even feel like one of the bars that attended the meeting seemed like he was really all that adamant about that being.
I respected, we got a lot of feedback from one of the owners and it was solid questions that were super, super useful. It is my opinion, and I can't put words in people's mouth, that that person was there on a fact-finding mission and that no preference was expressed one way or the other. If
I
you,
think he did make the statement that he didn't see the need in it, but maybe that wasn't clear enough preference. I'm pretty positive that's what he said. He didn't see the need in that.
In that meeting.
Yes, in that
Go back
meeting,
and
that was a comment made. I'm almost 100% positive that comment was made.
legit, all I'm gonna say is I don't remember, so I'm gonna stop talking about that because you could be right. You would not throw that out there on purpose being wrong. So I'm gonna go have to back and go look at it and maybe even go talk to that individual. My impression was neutral, but I could be wrong and I will go look into that. I'm sorry if I'm misrepresenting that person in the meantime. I did not mean to do that.
If we were talking about this 6 months from now, that'd be a shame that we'd spent this much, wasted this, but to go on, to think about it a little bit longer, clearly it's part of the town, yes, no. It's like anytime you take a carry out and they propose to have a liquor license. I just went through this in Adams County, you got, it was pretty much a 50-50 split. And of course that went to a ballot and then it got voted in. And it probably, because there's been so much talk about it on social media and whatnot, it probably warrants us thinking about these different potential options for it a little bit longer.
Oh, I'm not trying to rush anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, thank you for
No, I'm
feedback.
just answering, your original question was, do we want to kill it right here, right this second? Or do you want
I
to go on
got
a little
you.
bit more? Yeah, that's fine.
So this warrants, I know that there's at least 4 votes say let's warrant this to go on a little bit
Yeah.
further. So that being said, is there anything else, Jeremy, you have for council?
No, I want to keep this quick.
Okay,
Thank you for your help, guys.
Nancy?
Well, I want to thank Jeremy because I thought I was going to be the long-winded one tonight. My topic was going to be longer, but Jeremy's already taken care of that. One quick thing before I get into the longer discussion, and it was alluded to in the minutes when I made the CIC correction minutes. The plan is to redo the basketball court this summer at the park, right? We already have money from several places, enough matching money that if we want to apply for Nature Works grant, again, it's about $21,000. And it has the splash pad, all the other stuff, 25% matching, but we already have that money. So that's not a gamble. Now, I will tell you, I am sure there are 2 other villages who are applying for it. And I doubt if we would get it because we've had it like 6 out of the last 7 years and they take points off for every year.
You said that before and then we got it.
Well, I know, we're getting a splash pad because of, so, anyway, I am willing to do that if council wants me to, and if you don't want me to, I won't do it.
I want you to.
Me too.
Okay. All righty. I'll
That
do
was
that.
quicker than Doyle.
Now.
That's not everything.
Oh, no, Dale.
I was taking Mike's cue on that.
Dale, I'm doing this to save you,
Okay.
to protect you. If you noticed, you have 2 meetings minutes of CIC and the first annual report that I think council's ever gotten. The last meeting we had, it was discussed that they were very unhappy that Dale and I and Dave before me had not, that we don't really expound on what goes on in the CIC, what they do and all of that. So I thought they're absolutely right. I never do say much, I usually leave it up to Dale, but I'm going to start doing better on that. But something came up and I want to just go through what was said at the meeting, what was done, and then get some information from you all. The CIC is Carol Myers, Margie Peltz, Charlie Ring, Dale, and me. And so at the last meeting, the state had told, I don't know if it was Margie or Carol, that the CIC needs a retention policy and a public records policy, which they'll probably just adopt. Joe recommended just adopting what the village uses and that. And we had decided, we talked about going through our bylaws because they've been in existence since 2012 and the bylaws had never been gone through. So we started going through the bylaws. There were actually 3 versions at the time, but finally settled on which one we thought was the one we were operating on. And there were things like the officer structure we had didn't match what the bylaws said. The meeting said once a month. They wanted to change it to once every other month, with one time a quarter being mandatory. They didn't meet in the last quarter because some paperwork wasn't filed with the state right, and that had to get filed. So we didn't meet in that last quarter at all. But that's all straightened out. They're recognized by the state again. Start giving annual reports to the council. That's what the bylaws say. Question came up as to why there is a council member has to be on the ORC. On the CIC. And the answer was it's in the ORC. And so their idea was, so you all would know what's going on, is that we rotate being on that. Like every year, a different person would be on it. And I said, why do you think I'm here? And I said, nobody wants to do that. We're busy. The council members are busy. We're on a lot of committees and that. And I said, I'm here because I was the only one who would do it. But that was one suggestion. But the thing that, my biggest point, the last section of the bylaws says that upon dissolution of the CIC, if and when they ever dissolve, the money that they have left goes to a 501, and this is spelled out in the ORC also, a 501c3 or government, state, federal, or local. And I wanted it changed. I just think that all the money that they got came from the council. It should go back to the council. We talked about it a lot. They've had Joe and Jason in. We paid for that, not the CIC. So we have funded all of this, but yet they want to keep the decision. They could give that money to somebody, to some 501c3, has nothing to do with the village or isn't even around here. So I finally made a motion to change the last article reading that it would go back to the village if and when they dissolve. And it died for a lack of a second. Then there was a motion made, believe it or not, to not change anything. You would just leave it. But there was a motion made not to change anything, and it got a second.
That was to not change the way the money was dispersed in the event.
That was not to change title.
Yeah, it was not to change it the way from what it was.
Yeah, but you don't
Right.
usually have a motion if you're not going to do something.
right.
So anyway, but it got a second and that vote was 4-1. I was the only no vote. Anyway, through all of this, the last thing that was said was the whole thing is about the Port Authority. If you haven't figured that out, I'm sorry. That money we would get from the sale of property or whatever, the Port Authority. Now we have someplace else to send that. So it was stated that if the council is not going to support them financially or in any other way, they need to be told that. It's only fair. And I absolutely agree. So I guess what we need to do is discuss the, CIC. We can't dissolve it. They can only dissolve themselves. But I think that's fair for them to say, hey, if we're never, because their money's going, they got money from the bank, they got from sale, they got all the money from that Kenwood lot. And they've done some grants. It tells you in here, they've done a loan. Somebody else had come and asked for a loan, but the mayor told me, I think today or yesterday, that that's been withdrawn. But they're down to like $12,000 from $28,000. So they're looking for us to give them more money at some point.
Not
So-
necessarily give, but if there are properties that we acquire as a village, you can only sell them at public auction. So if we feel that they could sell that for more money that they can utilize, we can strike a deal separately with the CIC saying, here, we'll give you halves or whatever percentage if you sell this property, because you don't have to put it up for bid. You can just, take offers on it. So that's the problem with the CIC in a small community. There's limited resources for them to get their money.
Right. So I guess basically, you may want to think about it. You may want to do some research. You may want to talk to some other people. The thing is, we have limited money. We now have the Port Authority and we have the CIC. We're going to split the money. Are we only going to give it to the Port Authority? Can the Port Authority turn over property, flip it as fast as CIC? Probably. It's something Joe can tell us. I don't think there's anything the CIC can do. I'm looking at you. Jeff. Offhand, and I know, I'm sure you're not Port Authority set. I don't think that there's anything the CIC can do that the Port Authority can't, but there's a lot of things the Port Authority can do that the CIC can't.
I would answer you like that. I'm not familiar with
Okay.
the scope of authority of those. I'm sure Joe and I can put together a memo for you if you'd like.
Yeah, that's okay. I've read an awful lot, been talking about this for about 4 years
But in
now.
our conversations with Jason Hammond, Art, Joe, and I, they can coexist
Sure they
for different reasons.
Now, I did go through, because Joe made the remark that there were some that have both. And then somebody said, oh, he said there a lot have both. No, I went through, and I'm sure my search was not exhaustive, because I know Mount Orab wasn't on the list, but I went through the Association of Port Authorities, and then I went through all the CICs that are registered with the State Department. The only overlap I could find was Ashtabula County. They have both. Now, there were several who did have CICs who now have Port Authorities, and looking at the activity dates and stuff, it looks like when they opened the Port Authority, they did away with the CIC. That's what it looks like when you look at them. So I don't know. But anyway, it's something to think about, talk about. They want to know
Can
what
I
our
ask a
intentions
question,
are.
Nancy?
Yeah.
Actually, this is more directed to the mayor. Is everyone on the CIC, are they Village of Georgetown residents?
They either have to be residents or they have to have some sort of business connection with the village.
And that's the same rule will apply to the Port Authority by ORC.
I just have maybe just a comment for discussion, or not. I'm just trying to piece together everything that you said. If part of the current CIC's concern is that we either, and I know it's, that we either don't funnel them enough money from time to time, or maybe like take this building that we're considering auctioning, the old water building, and maybe giving that to them and letting them take advantage of that in the ways that they can, that a village can't. If we're not doing enough of that stuff, I think that's what I'm hearing. Then it stands to reason that whatever small piece of the pot would only be smaller. And if we were to have it, well, not if, we now have a port authority. I know everybody that, well, I know almost everybody that's on there and have a respect for all of them. And, you know, they're doing it because they love the town and the village, and I think they're all pretty good people. But from time to time, okay, you're right. This is the first, and I've only been here a few years, but this is the first annual report you're saying that you've seen in a long time. But we see some meeting minutes from time to time. And one thing that always just kind of runs funny to me is if this is an economic development tool, I just from time to time see things on those meeting minutes that would appear to be council business. I'm reading an annual report. So an annual report couldn't summarize everything that happened in your meetings every year. It's a summary. So you'd put the high level things that happened. And, you know, I see that they discussed a pothole behind some buildings that needed to be filled in to make that road a little smoother. It just seems like the kind of conversation. I hope that we didn't just vote in a port authority for people for a lot of smart businessmen and women to sit around and comprise this thing and talk about things of that level. There's just a certain amount of redundancy that seems like it's going to be here. If they can coexist, and if you did a search and you found one place where they coexist, and it was, where was it? A town bigger than, yeah, a town quite a bit bigger than Georgetown. Okay. I don't know. It just seems like, I mean, it doesn't cost us anything to have a CIC, but I guess my fear is that those folks who are donating their time, and again, who are good people, are probably just going to become more frustrated, because I can't imagine that if there is some sort of property development opportunity or something, that we're not going to want to give it to the entity who has the most tools in their bag to do things in an advantageous way. So it just seems like if they're frustrated now, if we now have a port authority, they'll probably be maybe frustrated a little bit more. And then it just seems like there's, maybe I'm reading between the lines, a little bit of antagonism or something, you know, that it doesn't seem like a tool of council. If it does bother me a little bit, the whole idea, and you referenced an example where maybe they pick up on a piece of property and resell it or whatever, and then that there would be any question that if it were to dissolve, that the money would go anywhere but back to the village. That the fact that died on the floor after a council representative that's required by the ORC that's on there makes a motion for that, and then that motion dies on the floor. It's like, are we all on? It doesn't seem like we're on the same team here at all.
Here's part of it, Steve. This is before you were on council. When the vacant lot was to be sold,
Which,
there was the Merchants Bank.
okay,
It was sold by the CIC, and they were told they would get 20% of that. And that got negotiated down to a 10% thing. It wasn't negotiation. That's just what the CIC received. Also on the the Bicentennial Park, the CIC had that and agreed to give it back to the village so they could do the Bicentennial Park. But the CIC, but you need to pave the gravel parking lot. And so that hasn't been done, even though that's in the works. But, you know, they felt that they weren't listened to. So I think they have, I don't want to say animosity, but they just have like, do you really want us or not? Is kind of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's both ways. And I think council says, do we really need them or not? So I think it's a two-way street.
and how would you, as somebody who's a longstanding mayor
Mhm.
and a business
Mhm.
business owner for a long time in the village,
Mhm.
and a member of the CIC.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on everything that?
Oh, I agree with the minutes there, especially the annual summary. The minutes are the minutes. That's what's discussed in the meeting. But the annual summary report that was done by the chairman, I can't speak for her as to why she did it that way. The CIC has loaned out money. It has given away money. So there are at least 4 groups out there that are benefiting from the CIC. So if they use all their money, well, they're done, and that's fine. And they would just close up shop, I'm sure. But if there is money to be had, they would like to do that. I mean, I'm sure they're not in the mood, and Nancy, you can attest for this, they're not in the mood to go out and have fundraisers to make their own money. So it's one of these things where the way it was established is that they were a conduit of selling mainly small pieces of property at whatever amount they could sell them for, and there was some sort of split between the village who had given it to the CIC and them. So that's how they make their money, or they make money on loans. But you can't make much money on a $4,000 loan at 4% interest over so many years. So
Don't you have the power to broker loans through the state, right? That
we
they can
could, yeah,
do those?
we could go through the Ohio Department of Commerce and we could get low interest loans if they're, but that's really now the power of the Port Authority to do that type of stuff, because the CIC doesn't have that expertise to do that, where a Port Authority would. So CIC is more small potato stuff.
With like, I just ask you, is there, well, you shouldn't be I guess it's not fair to ask you because nobody else from the CIC other than you two is here to defend their position. I'll just say that it really strikes me out that motion, should they dissolve, never received a second.
Well, they were going by what the Ohio Revised Code states, that they have complete authority of their money to dispose of as they see fit to any 501c3 organization, a government entity they so wish to give it to.
Which is why I made the motion to change that. Because that's not required.
But and even with, if I'm understanding right, even without changing it, it would be, one of their choices would be to give it back to the village.
They could, yeah.
But
yeah.
it was also said, if they had a fundraiser and if they made money, then they should have the right to determine where it goes, which is absolutely true. They've been in existence for 12 years. They've never done a thing. Their only money has come from us giving it to them and us paying for Joe to go to their meetings and advise them, us paying for Jason to go to a meeting and advise them. They've never come up with any money. They've not paid for anything. They've not.
Well, it sounds as if you wish to get rid of them. Is
Well,
that true?
is
that true? It sounds like
Absolutely.
you're condemning them to death, I guess.
Well,
So-
they want me, they
Well,
want council.
They
to know
are
what's going
limited
on
as
in
to
the
what they can
meetings.
do. They can't afford to go out and hire attorneys. They can't hire an economic development director. Now, Joe's been with the CIC maybe 2 times over the time that
I
he's
mean,
been with
Jason's
us.
only been there once,
Right,
but
right.
my whole point is we've given the money. We have paid, we never approved to pay Joe to come see them or for Jason.
You gave them money, and what they did was able to make a deal with the Merchants National Bank, so that Merchants National Bank is across the street.
We didn't give them money and make them.
No,
make
you
it
gave
deal.
them money from the sale of that
Well,
property.
yeah, and they kept saying they were promised 25%, but I don't know when. I was on the council then.
Oh, it
The
was
only
mentioned that.
discussion I
That was
remember is
mentioned.
10%.
Well, I remember more.
Do you remember that, Kelly? Yeah, I remember the discussion that it went down. I remember Dave brought up 25%, but they hadn't done anything up to that point. So we decided to start out with 10. No, I'm thinking the same way they are. We got a Port Authority, we've got a CIC, we've got this much money. Where's it gonna go? It's gonna go to the Port Authority.
I would say most likely in the future, it is going to go to the Port Authority. So, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe that's not a decision that we make for them, but I mean, I guess maybe that's something that
No,
as
we can't make the decision.
I know,
It's
yeah,
all
I
they-
said that
It's
wrong.
just like Jeremy's saying, I don't want to waste my time.
Right.
Tell me now with Adora. And it's the same thing with them.
Yeah.
You know, one of them said, if the council's not going to support us anymore, I don't remember if she said financially or not, then it's only right that they let us know that. And I
Well,
absolutely.
here's
agree.
what, I mean, here's what we could probably, I never try to speak for everybody else at the table. I think I safely could on this one. I mean, if both, so we don't close them down, so they're there.
Right.
And I don't think nobody wants to close them down, but they're there with the funds they have. We have a new CIC. I think that the six of us are always going to, any potential purchase, sale of land, funds being, we're always going to put it in whichever one of those two entities it's most advantageous for the village and everybody that lives in it. And that will maybe more than likely, most of the time, be the one over the other. And then, as you said, their funds will do what they do. And so, okay.
Okay, I mean, that's fine, but I was asked to ask.
That's
And I
my,
was
that's my
asking
answer.
before
We'll,
the report, and I-
now that we have two options, my vote will always be to put it in the one that's the most advantageous to the village.
Okay.
I think everyone should feel that way too.
Yeah.
And here's my opinion, even with a CIC member saying or thinking not to give it any remaining money if they dissolve to anything other than the village. Wow, that's a concept. That's a concept. Because that's taxpayer money that they're giving to someone other than the Georgetown taxpayer if they decide not to give it back to the village. That's a concept.
Taxpayer money that they receive is from sale of property. You know, they have given money to businesses here in town, not a great number, 3 or 4 businesses here. So there have been benefactors of their giving. So that's what they were created for. Were they created to do something more of that? Yes. Are they able to accomplish that? Probably not in this environment now.
Maybe, I mean, depending upon the discussions, when you go back and kind of take the feedback from today, you know, that most likely, if it's more advantageous to go with the other group, then that's what we will probably do. But maybe you could talk about a plan. I mean, if the group census is, well, if they're not going to fund us, what's the point of being here? Maybe recharge that conversation around, okay, well, we have this remaining money. How can we get the most impact out of this money with our people in Georgetown? What can we do with this money that we have that can impact the immediate community? And maybe charge that to come up with something where you're spending down the money, but it's going for benefit for businesses within the community.
Yeah, CI or a Port Authority isn't going to give a $2,500 loan to somebody.
Right.
Or a $4,000 grant to somebody. They're going to be much bigger potatoes to take care of than that. So that's what a CIC can do, is the smaller entities that either have struggled with getting bank loans, and they can get something a little more advantageous with a CIC. So, and then the CIC can bring that money back in and hopefully let it grow. But, you know, with limited resources, you can't give out too many loans. Yeah. We have.
Yeah, right. I mean, you could tailor it more. I mean, I think it's every grant's 20, I don't even know what the parameters are,
The
but
maximum grant is 2,500.
so maybe there's some, look at something in the community that is needed in the business community or whatever, and tailor some grants that could be quick and efficient, that could go out pretty quickly. I'm not saying just throw it out there, but I think there's a lot that can be done.
They don't want to, my interpretation is they don't want to put it out there unless that's going to be replaced.
That doesn't work. I mean, that's why you try and get as many loans out there so that you're getting that interest
Yeah.
coming back in so that it becomes a revolving loan fund. But at this point,
And
there's
I
just
think
not
that's what
enough.
they're looking at now. It's just doing loans, but
It's kind of late. I mean, unless they're doing $1,000 loans, maybe, but you're just not going to get the return that you need to keep the fund going.
You got to have some income or it just will fizzle out.
Yeah.
And it may do that on its own. I don't know.
that's it for me.
Okay. Now, did you want to go to an executive session? You have that.
The code section is 121.22G1.
121. I don't know how to say that. I forget how to say it. I move that we go into executive session for reason of to discuss the compensation of employees
Under section,
under section 121.22G1.
okay. We have that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, let's do a roll call vote, please, Brian.
Kelly,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Next
Okay.
question is who do we need in the session?
Yeah, who do you want in that session? You're the one who called for the,
I think it's only 3. It's 4. No, it's 3. No.
Jeff can stay. Mhm.
What do you